I think looking at progress over a single year is probably not that useful, given climate change is such a very substantial long-term challenge requiring very long-term commitments and a long-term plan of action. But we do need to act quickly, and we need to accelerate and expand our actions. And there is evidence over the last year or so, I think, that the mining sector has broadly accepted that challenge. I think the very widespread acceptance now that the mining sector has come to consider how to effectively decarbonize its supply chains as a whole, upstream and downstream, that's quite a significant shift. If you think about the conversations around scope 3 emissions, etc., only a few years ago. And whilst this isn't the biggest challenge for gold, I think for other metals producers, grasping the thorny issue of trying to deal with that complex supply chain in terms of decarbonisation, I think you're now seeing levels of commitment that probably weren't there 3 or 4 years ago, and I think that's quite a significant change. I don't know if exciting is quite the right word, but I think from a sustainability perspective, it's highly significant that climate change and climate change risks and challenges are now being identified as intrinsically linked and intertwined with the need to safeguard biodiversity and nature. Now, potentially addressing this, will of course amplify and complicate the challenge. But if the mining sector can come to terms with some of these challenges and it can articulate how it's responding, I think this will be part of its ongoing transformation as a sector to an industry that is increasingly focused on net positive outcomes. And this can definitely be exciting if it brings new perspectives on mining as a provider of positive solutions for wider societal benefit. I think that perception is lacking at the moment. So I think in moving both to act on climate change and, as I say, recognize that climate change is interlinked with so many other factors, including the issues of nature and biodiversity, I think that will certainly help initiate a broader shift in perspectives. Well, I think the industry as a whole may need to be stronger and braver in its commitments to decarbonize and its actions to shift particularly towards lower carbon energy sources, which is, I think, where the initial impacts will be. Now, this may not be simple for some mining companies, particularly when it comes to those smaller and mid-tier mining companies in particular jurisdictions, but investors and society more generally, they're demanding to know where mining companies stand. And I think there's been great progress in reporting those positions, but it's not always clear to outsiders. The industry often struggles, I think, to engage with those external perspectives and views. So I think the industry needs to understand better how its actions and its disclosures, how they're interpreted by investors and analysts, for example. I think the data emerging from the mining sector is often misinterpreted, and its positive intentions and its potential positive outcomes, they are therefore occasionally or fairly frequently neglected or ignored. Certainly they're often misperceived, misinterpreted. I know this is true of the gold mining sector, and its potential decarbonisation pathway is certainly not sufficiently understood by external agencies. So it could do better. I think it needs to engage, the mining sector more generally needs to engage, and it needs to understand how it is being perceived and how its data is being interpreted. I think most mining industry participants and company leaders now understand the need to act on climate change and to be able to demonstrate that they are acting responsibly and sustainably. And I think to avoid any into greenwashing, they also need to evidence that progress with solid data, disclosure, honesty and transparency. And I hope that Digging for Climate Change might have contributed in some small way to progress in that direction, in supporting a transparently more sustainable industry that offers external audiences some solid evidence of progress. Thank you.